4, 5. Right. That's just, and you put that at the beginning of the tape. So when we come to play it back, we'll know the level that the recording was made at. It doesn't have to be exactly 30 seconds, but they normally it's about 30 seconds, yeah. Just push it again. Around as much as you.
Are you rolling?
Yeah.
There is no doubt that the McDaniel report has had a significant impact on our views on Mars. Let us now go to the lecture theatre where Professor McDaniel gave his presentation at the Aylesbury Grammar School. What was that? 5, 10 seconds? Yeah.
Right, sound?
Yes, fine.
Okay, rolling.
There is no doubt that the McDaniel report has had a significant impact on our views on Mars. Let us now go to the lecture theatre where Professor McDaniel gave his presentation at the Aylesbury Grammar School in November 1996.
Okay, any time.
Are you rolling?
Yep.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that lecture by Professor McDaniel and found it interesting and informative. Finally, back at my home, we asked Professor McDaniel what researchers should do if NASA continues to evade the issues raised by Cydonia.
Fine. Do you want to do it again?
Okay.
Okay, anytime.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that lecture by Professor McDaniel and found it interesting and informative. Finally, back at my home, we asked Professor McDaniel what researchers should do if NASA continues to evade the issues raised by Cydonia.
Right. Sorry, I'm going to ask you to do it again.
Okay.
I'll get even closer this time.
All right.
It's better on the Zoom.
No problem.
Anytime.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that lecture by Professor McDaniel and found it interesting and informative. Finally, back at my home, we asked Professor McDaniel what researchers should do if NASA continues to evade the issues raised by Cydonia.
Don't sort of try and get it word for word.
Yeah.
All that really counts is
Yes,
to say what you've got in the speech.
I understand. Okay. Yeah.
So that it's you speaking it
Yeah.
to the audience.
That's something we don't want. Hello, my name is Ananda Sirisena, and I'm here in Oxford this morning because we're outside St. John's College, where Professor Stanley McDaniel gave a lecture last November. In November 1996, Professor McDaniel, author of the famous McDaniel Report, was invited by the Space and Astronomy Society at Oxford University to discuss the recommendations made in his report. He was met very graciously here in Oxford, right outside St. John's College, by his hosts, and he had the largest assembly at the lecture theatre during his evening dissertation. Professor McDaniel recommends that future spacecraft to Mars should have a higher priority for re-imaging Cydonia, that mysterious region where the Sphinx-like face and the pyramids have been imaged. Now, how did that come out? Sound-wise, was that okay?
Yeah, sound-wise.
Okay. All right.
What we'll do is if you go back,
Yes.
you can do the same whole thing again. And what I'll do is I'll shoot. If you do a sort of start, right? I'll do a close-up. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, we need a close shot because in the shot we've got, it's very nice sort of backup. You're sincere.
Yeah, I understand. Because your camera is aimed up, isn't it? It's up at an angle. Do you want me to move back or forward a little? The shadows okay, are they? I'm in the shade of the tree.
Slightly to your left.
This way?
No, that gets worse.
No.
The other way. That's it.
Yeah.
Back. Forward a bit. Forward. Stop.
Yeah.
Now that's a close shot. If you have another go.
Okay. Hello, my name is Ananda Sirisena, and I'm here today outside St. John's College, University of Oxford. In November 1996, Professor Stanley McDaniel, author of the now famous McDaniel Report, was invited by the Space and Astronomy Society at St. John's College to discuss the recommendations that he had made in his report. These highly controversial recommendations suggest that any future spacecraft to Mars should re-image the mysterious region of Cydonia. Professor McDaniel was met by his hosts very graciously here at St. John's College, and after an evening meal, escorted to the lecture theatre, where he had the largest capacity audience for the Space and Astronomical Society in Oxford University. When I spoke to the attendees after the lecture, they were all quite amazed. They had never given thought to the scenario of a possibility of an ancient civilization on Mars, which may have died out as a result of the loss of the atmosphere of Mars. But having seen the Viking imagery, they were now convinced that here was a scientific avenue to follow. Professor McDaniel suggested that the research that has been so meticulously conducted over the past few years needs further high-resolution photography to ensure that the images that we are seeing on Cydonia are indeed not tricks of light and shadow. Famous McDaniel Report.
Sorry. Can you go again from the top?
From the top?
Yeah.
From the beginning?
From the beginning.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I'll just sort myself out.
Yeah, I think that's all right. Okay.
Hello, my name is Ananda Sirisena. I'm here today outside St. John's College in Oxford. In November 1996, Professor Stanley McDaniel was invited by the Space and Astronomy Society at St. John's to discuss the highly controversial recommendations made in his now famous McDaniel report. Professor McDaniel gave a superb evening dissertation at the college to the society on his recommendation.
Can we go from the top again?
Okay,
I'm just trying to get the words to match
the Zoom, okay. Tell me when you want me to start.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Ananda Sirisena and I'm here today outside St. John's College in Oxford. In November 1996, Professor Stanley McDaniel, author of the now famous McDaniel report, was invited by the Space and Astronomy Society at St. John's College to give an evening dissertation on his highly controversial recommendations. Professor McDaniel outlined the research that has been conducted over the years by various scientists of many different disciplines regarding the Viking images of Cydonia. Professor McDaniel recommends that any future spacecraft to Mars should re-image Cydonia at a much higher priority level than has presently been ascribed by NASA. When I spoke to the attendees after the talk, they were all amazed at the ramifications of what the Viking images show, an apparently previous civilization on the surface of Mars with an abandoned city in Cydonia. Professor,
Can you go from about halfway through?
okay, all right,
Do any bit that you didn't weren't happy with doing.
all right. Professor McDaniel was met very graciously by his hosts here at St. John's College, and after an evening supper, he presented his lecture at the theatre, which had the largest capacity for a Space and Astronomy Society meeting at Oxford University. Professor McDaniel's dissertation was very warmly received. He cut an unusual figure with his poncho and cloak combination. He presented the scientific evidence based on many years of research conducted by many researchers throughout the years on the artifacts or the apparent artifacts in the region of Cydonia on Mars. When I spoke to the attendees afterwards, many of them said they were quite astounded by the implications of what the Viking images show. Apparent structures built by a civilization on Mars many, many centuries ago, presumably abandoned when Mars lost its atmosphere. And the implications of this to the philosophy, religion, science, and history of humanity cannot be compounded directly. No stone must be unturned in order to discover for ourselves what the implications are for a civilization on Mars that may have disappeared from the surface as a result of the loss of the atmosphere of Mars. Many questions remain unanswered, and it is imperative that future spacecraft to Mars do re-photograph Cydonia. Was that good? Okay. Implications are for a civilization on Mars that may have disappeared from the surface as many questions remain unanswered, and it is imperative that future spacecraft to Mars do re-photograph Cydonia. Was that good? Okay. Okay. No. This is my hair, okay?
Yeah, your hair's fine.
Something like that?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's
Okay, starting. When I spoke to the attendees afterwards, they said that they were convinced by Professor McDaniel's arguments. Many of them had never given thought to the scenario of an ancient civilization on Mars until they saw the Viking imagery and were made aware of the results of the research over many years. They were puzzled by NASA's lack of interest in the artifacts. And the ancient history of evidence, the ancient history of Mars suggests... Start again. Distracted me. Perhaps they didn't realize there was some recording going on here. Start again. That was my cue I needed. The key is the present climatic conditions on Mars. Yeah. Okay. The present climatic conditions on Mars precludes life as we know it, but in the ancient past there must have been large oceans and waterways, lakes, rainfall, all the ingredients for life. We know there was plenty of oxygen on Mars. So it's quite amazing to think what may have happened on the surface of Mars with the loss of its atmosphere and the planetary surface becoming very cold.
Do it again.
Yeah. Now, what was the cue again? It was the the parameter. Yes. The present climatic conditions on Mars precludes life as we know it, but in the past there must have been great oceans and lakes on Mars, rainfall. Even rust on the surface suggests that there was plenty of oxygen on the surface of Mars. So the conditions were just there, just right for life as we know it. What may have happened on the surface of Mars is that when Mars lost its atmosphere, the planet became very cold, and life may have had to either go underground or be lost. There's a bit of noise there.
Yeah.
That was a bicycle.
Okay, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
And
Go again.
Aerological history of the planet suggests previous existence.
That's the sentence I keep forgetting. Yes, yes. One I wrote myself. I'll read that again.
Because it does actually read really nicely. That last
It does.
part.
Yes, yes.
If you try it, and stick as closely as you can to it.
To that sentence. Yeah. Okay. Many were puzzled by NASA's lack of interest into these uncanny life forms on Mars. The present climatic conditions on Mars precludes life as we know it, but the aerological conditions in the past, with vast lakes and oceans, rivers, rainfall, suggest that Mars may have had a climate very much like Earth today, with all the ingredients present for life as we know it. And what may have happened on Mars is that it may have lost its atmosphere, thus leading to a very rapid cooling of the planet. Distractions there, which I shouldn't have allowed to, but anyway, it did happen, yeah. But I think I got that sentence in, didn't I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
more or less.
More or less, the present climatic
But the aerological history of the planet
suggests previous existence. Let's try that sentence again.
until
Right,
the loss
hang on.
of its
If
atmosphere.
you're going to do some more.
Yes.
Yeah. Bear with me. Right, if you'd like to go
The present conditions on Mars precludes life as we know it, but the aerological history
I want a close shot,
Mhm.
and you started, you moved your head.
Did I?
Don't
Oh.
worry about that.
Mustn't do. Of course, that's because I had this piece of paper. Let's put this piece of paper away and go from memory this time. Yes. The present conditions on Mars precludes life as we know it, but the aerological history of the planet suggests rainfall, rivers, vast lakes and oceans. In fact, all the ingredients necessary for life were present on Mars many millions of years ago. Stop there for a minute. Did I get that sentence in? I got.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, if we could do that once more, just
Yep.
because at the crucial time the guy cycled by.
Did he? Okay.
That's all right. I mean,
I'll say the aerological history of the planet suggests previous existence of oceans, lakes, running water, and rainfall.
right.
Until the loss of its atmosphere,
Sure.
they have devastated life. That's quite nice and concise.
Yeah. Okay. Trying to remember that, isn't it? May have devastated life. Yeah.
So you could, I don't know, throw in a however.
Yeah.
Atmosphere
Yes.
may well.
Hold a second. Hold a second.
The present.
Sorry, I hit the camera. Again.
The present conditions on Mars precludes life as we know it, but the areological history of the planet suggests oceans, rivers, lakes and rainfall, all the ingredients necessary for life many millions of years ago. Stop there till the cycle goes past and then continue.
Actually, if you hold the paper there,
Yes.
have a shot. It actually does wonders for the lighting.
Okay.
The sun bounces off.
Bounces off the
Yeah,
paper.
you can
Not
leave it like that.
okay. Go ahead.
Yes.
Until the loss of its atmosphere may have devastated life on the surface. Such an event is of the utmost importance to the science, philosophy, religion, and way of life on this earth.
You're reading it now.
Yeah. Start again.
You've got to,
I've got to keep looking at the camera. Yeah.
great zone.
Yeah.
You can hold the paper there. But
Yes. Start.
yes.
Until the loss of its atmosphere may have devastated life on the surface of the planet. Such an event is of the utmost importance to the science, philosophy, religion, and culture on this earth. Stop there.
Yeah.
Okay. Should have said way of life of our human race. Yeah, it sounded better, didn't it? I'll do that sentence again. Yeah.
Okay, wait till you do that. Okay.
Such an event is of utmost importance to the religion, philosophy, science, and cultural way of life for us on Earth and to our human race. I looked down then, didn't I? Yeah. I thought I'd forgotten the word human race. Let me do that again, one last time.
Okay, well, wait till you have gone by. As I say, we're playing around with the edges. This is,
Yeah,
you know, we've got
sure.
it all in one.
Tell me when the people have gone.
Ready? Go.
Such an event is of utmost importance to the philosophy, religion, science, and cultural way of life for our human civilization on this earth. Near enough. Near enough. Now the other bit on the Imperial College we'll do somewhere else, yes? Some.
Do. Or we could swing round here and do it. Is that good?
Do you want to stop at one of those little villages somewhere and try it maybe there for a different lot of scenery? But let me buy you a drink first, you gentlemen. There's a pub just here, I notice. It'd be a good time for a thirst-quenching drink, wouldn't it? Because we'll be running out of parking time shortly anyway, won't we? So is that okay then for the moment, Roger?
Yes, yes.
All right, let's unplug myself then from the electricals.
Yeah, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
In your own time.
Loud and clear. Okay, start now. When I spoke to the attendees afterwards, they said that he had opened their eyes to the hitherto amazing concept of the reality of the remnants of an ancient civilization on Mars. Many of them had never given thought to such a scenario until they saw the Viking imagery and the careful research that had been conducted throughout the years. Many were puzzled by the apparent lack of interest by NASA into these uncanny landforms. The present climatic conditions of Mars precludes life as we know it to survive on the surface, but the areological history of the planet suggests previous existence of oceans, lakes, running water and rainfall, until the loss of its atmosphere may have devastated life. However, in the best traditions of scientific thought and human progress, one must go where the evidence leads. If this means grappling with the intense philosophical and etymological problems that an ancient civilization on Mars presents, then so be it. Such an event is of the utmost importance to the science, philosophy, religion and way of life of our human race. Didn't sound too much like reading, did it? Okay, that's okay.
What was the sound like? 'Cause there were a lot of trucks and buses going past all at once.
It would have been no
I'm
different from
confused.
previous.
Is this the end piece?
Yeah, that's the kind of conclusion
That you're looking for.
paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try the Imperial College
I
bit
think
then
the
next.
Imperial, yeah, let's go for the. So this is the Imperial College bit.
Imperial College in central London has an unrivaled reputation for excellence in science and technology. As part of the University of London, its academic record in research and teaching is acknowledged throughout the world. It was a privilege for me to be back 30 years after being a student here on Friday 22nd November 1996 to hear Professor Stanley McDaniel speak to the astrophysics department. He presented the evidence resulting from the ongoing research into the unusual features in Cydonia and elsewhere on Mars in the same expert manner that he had done the day before at Oxford University. Professor McDaniel also spoke in Glasgow, Scotland, to a school where a group of students had conducted their own study into Cydonia and completed a project on one pyramidal hill in the area. His last lecture was at the University of Kent in Canterbury, but you are about to see his presentation at the Aylesbury Grammar School in Buckinghamshire on the Saturday after his Imperial College talk.
That's fine. The only thing.
Did I go wrong somewhere there?
No. It's just the thing is, I'm glad to be here.
Uh-huh.
You're talking as though you were there. If it's going to be a voiceover,
Right.
Then it,
you're not seen in shot.
no, unless that voiceover comes when you have the clip of Imperial College.
Yeah.
When I say it was a privilege for me to be back here after 30 years.
Can you say something like it was a privilege for me to be back after 30 years to listen to rather than say, take out the word here.
Okay.
It gives us the flexibility.
Ah, right.
The other thing is, can you actually sit on that side and face away from the traffic?
Right, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
You can move all that round there.
Round to this side, yeah.
Yeah. Give me a bit more.
How is the sound?
I think it's all right.
Yeah. It's not going to be drowned. It's not going to be drowned.
It's
Or...
not going to be drowned. No, it's going to be in the background, which is fine.
Yeah, that's
I hope.
This won't increase the sound of the passers-by talking and so on, but that's sort of ambience, isn't it? Okay. All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
All right, I shall start then. This is, let me just see. So if I say it was a privilege for me to be back without saying back here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Starting now. Imperial College in central London has an unrivaled reputation for excellence in science and technology. As part of the University of London, its academic record in research and teaching is acknowledged throughout the world. It was a privilege for me to be back 30 years after being a student on Friday 22nd November 1996 to hear Professor Stanley McDaniel speak to the astrophysics department. He presented the same evidence resulting from the ongoing research into the unusual features in Cydonia and elsewhere on Mars, in the same expert manner that he had done the day before at Oxford University. The audience here was muted, thoughtful, maybe even skeptical to begin with, but after seeing the photographic evidence, I have no doubt that many of them decided that one must go where this evidence leads. Professor McDaniel also spoke in Glasgow, Scotland, to to a school where a group of students had conducted their own study into Cydonia and completed a project on one pyramidal hill in the area. His last lecture was at the University of Kent in Canterbury, but you're about to see his presentation at the Aylesbury Grammar School in Buckinghamshire on Saturday, the 23rd of November 1996.
Right, could you just do the end thing, which starts with, he also did a lecture at, just the wind was catching the microphone.
Okay, all right. That's where he says, where I say his last lecture was at.
Yes.
Okay. His last lecture was at the University of Kent in Canterbury, but you're about to see his presentation at the Aylesbury Grammar School in Buckinghamshire on Saturday, the 23rd of November 1996.
It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, well, we've got all that done.
Yeah, we have. I'm just...
Good.
We could do it here.
Yeah?
There's a I think it's a traffic warden. Just check on the time.
Right, let's do it quickly.
Okay. His last lecture was at the University of Kent in Canterbury, but you're about to see his presentation at the Aylesbury Grammar School on Saturday, the 23rd of November 1996.
Yep.
Is it?
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
That'll do.